All and welcome to the first ASD virtual event of the new season. Hope you all are well. Hope you've had a good summer. Hope you got a bit of a break from football because let's be honest, the end of last season was pretty brutal. But yeah, delighted to kind of welcome you here again. ASD has been quite busy in the summer, busy kind of getting on with things kind of behind the scenes that we're going to update you on. And then we'll have a football discussion with Nick Ames from The Guardian and Adrian Clarke from the Arsenal Breakdown and Talksport and all the other kind of places he's on. So I'm just going to give everyone a second just to join. I can still see numbers going up. Cool, the numbers are still just going up. Just for anyone on a device, if you can kind of, when you're sort of looking at the slides, if our sort of camera is in the way, you can actually just move it yourself. So something I worked out when I was testing my screen earlier. Right, cool. So I'm going to introduce Tim, who's going to just help me cover off a few of the AST matters. And then we'll, of course, bring Nick and Adrian on shortly. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our kind of all of our new members as well. We've had a handful join in the summer, some from the UK, some from overseas, but delighted to have you. So thank you for joining. Cool. Quite a busy agenda here, Tim. I think first things first, I think we're going to pay tribute to not only an Arsenal fan, because she was more than an Arsenal fan. She was obviously an AST member as well. I think she was a life member, was she, Tim?
I think that's right, yes.
She used to kind of attend many events, and to be honest, she the last event we had in person was the Per Mertesacker event. And if you remember, it was the 7th of December. It was absolutely freezing. It was thundering. It was rain everywhere. There was a bit of a storm, to be honest. It was a really bad day. Obviously, COVID was I think the Omicron had just started as well. So, you know, there was a lot of kind of dropouts on the day. But I remember Maria turned up, as she does with her stick, walked in. You know, she in the way Maria does, knows everyone, went to Per and had a little chat with him. I think she even closed off the show with something in German as well. And yeah, I mean, she was great. She had a little go at me as well, though, for not having tea at the bar. It was only, I think, beers, wine, and soft drinks. And she did say to me, "Young man, where's the tea?" And I think we actually did sort her out a tea. So fair play to Arsenal for doing that. But we've got someone on who's also a member called Yoko, who it was a friend of Maria's. You'll probably, if you did see Maria, you would have seen Yoko with her. And Yoko, are you sort of with us?
Yes.
Yeah, and
that's right.
We just thought we'll kind of invite you to say a few words. Obviously, don't worry, we can't see you, so we can just hear you. But we kind of you know, you're obviously very close with Maria and things like that. How was the last few months with her? But I mean, just tell us about her love for Arsenal. That's what.
Yes. Arsenal was her life, obviously, and everything else revolves around Arsenal. So all the fixtures, first team, women's, and also under 21 got priority in her diary. Then she put everything else around it. And Arsenal was her family, but literally her family. And, all the Arsenal supporters, she loved supporters as well as the players and players and the club itself. And also she's a great ambassador for Arsenal as well. When she goes away to European games, she used to take lots of little badges, Arsenal badges. And when she see children going to the game in opponent kits, she used to talk to them because she managed French, German, and Greek, and a lot of languages. And she gave the badges and hope they will remember Arsenal the rest of their lives. So yes, and obviously Arsenal woman being pioneer in women's football. She was pioneer supporter of women's football in England. So yeah, it is a little bit sad she didn't get to see Leah's and also Meader's success in Euro, but like she used to recently sing. Do you know that Arsenal chant, Arsenal till I die? Like Arsenal till I die, I'm Arsenal till I die. I know I am, I'm sure I am, I'm Arsenal till I die. And beyond, that's how she sang. So I'm sure she saw everything, and she will keep looking upon us, from above, and yeah, cheering Arsenal all the way, wherever.
Yeah, I mean, funny you say from above. She used to sit above me in the Emirates, right above me. I was before. Now I'm near you, aren't I? Block 4. But when I was in block 31, she was right above me, so you literally could hear her, and it was great. And I think for those who hadn't met Maria, they'd certainly heard Maria. So yeah, I mean, we're really, really proud to have her as a member. Really proud to just know she was an Arsenal fan, and as you said, I think she represented the club in the way we all should. So Maria, rest in peace from everyone at the Arsenal Supporters Trust.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, right, Tim, on to slightly more. I mean, in a way, it doesn't really feel too important when you've just had a couple of minutes like that. But of course, Maria would want the club to go on. Maria would want the club to win. And one thing she was passionate about was going to attend football matches. So having a ticket entitles you to do that. So a couple of things around ticketing that I've been involved in. So there was very high renewal rates from season ticket holders. I think that maybe does show the excitement a little bit of the season. We've also seen that Silvers and Reds have been absolutely selling out the ground very quickly, with the Leicester Fulham game sold out. I think Villa went on sale this week to Silvers and it was gone within half an hour. It's still got to go to Reds, I think. So even though we do normally say use a ticket exchange and things like that, you'll probably see that there isn't many tickets on the ticket exchange at the moment. But hopefully, come close to kickoff in a week or so, there might start to be more tickets available. But, do use a ticket exchange. Obviously, if you've got friends that are season ticket holders, they can transfer you their ticket. You don't even have to be a member. You just have to kind of sign up to a free membership. So it is quite easy. One thing we did have was we had quite a few members contact us about season ticket renewals in terms of deadlines. So I think a lot of people did kind of miss the deadline for whatever reason. We were quite kind of hot on Arsenal about comms and making sure there's multiple comms going out. I mean, I know I went on holiday as soon as the season ended, and many people might have done the same. We did get to help quite a few people. A couple of them, unfortunately, did lose their seat because their seat was sold on, but got one close by. But of course, one for next season. Again, keep an eye on emails and things like that. Put a post-it note somewhere because I think the kind of interest in Arsenal is quite high at the moment. And of course, this season you had the complication of season ticket holidays as well. So people that had taken a year out were then coming back. So you had people that potentially had a season ticket for a year. The person who had it previously on the holiday wanted it back. That person then was rehoused. So anyone who didn't renew by the deadline probably lost their ticket to someone who had one last year. So you can kind of understand maybe why that happened. But we hope everyone who did have issues did kind of get it sorted. Another thing, obviously, for this season, it's the kind of lose it, don't use it, lose it sort of scheme. So if you go to less than 10 games, you will lose your season ticket. And remember that cup finals as well are credited on the home credits as well. So if you kind of go to every game of the League Cup per se, say for example, there'll be all the League Cup plus X amount of Premier League games for you to get a ticket for the final. So obviously going to the games are important, but if you can't go, you can obviously put your ticket on ticket exchange and transfer, and you will still get your points. I think last year you weren't getting a point for the ticket exchange, but you are now. That's something that we continue to monitor and push for, and that has been a change. So to be fair to Arsenal, they always said they'll review this, and they have been. So any kind of suggestion, there have been a few of you that have emailed us a few things about ticketing. So we're certainly taking those on, and we'll continue to do so. Away scheme last season, I think it is now, for the away scheme to get priority. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I think it did open up tickets. I think 4 games last season went to 0 points. So even if you don't have any away points, you could have gone to West Brom in the cup, Liverpool in the cup, Man City in the league, and there was Forest in the cup as well. So with Europe back, we hope that more tickets will become available to kind of 0 points. Usually, sometimes European games do, because the allocation is a lot bigger. And of course, we'll be playing them very close together. So potentially you might not be able to go to 3 away European games because of maybe financial or because of holidays. So we're hoping there's an opportunity there, and often the league game after the European game, if it's away, sometimes people just can't manage to swing both games. So hopefully there'll be more away tickets available, because I know we do get contacted on that a lot as well. Tim, have I missed anything?
No, I think that's a good summary. On the away scheme, we do unfortunately see more and more away tickets reaching touting sites. I saw yesterday Spurs announcing that they are going to do more checking at venues of who's entering. Manchester United have done this. It's something that might be applicable to do at Arsenal. We always welcome your views. There will never be enough away tickets to meet the demand. So whatever solution you have will mean many people don't get to go to games that they'd like to. But do give us your feedback of your experiences of getting away tickets and how you find the games, and indeed for home games as well, because we do, particularly at the start of the season, expect this very high demand. Don't forget, as I just want to stress, like Akil said, I think we spent about 10 years pushing for the use it or lose it scheme. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people, it's extraordinary, who went to 4 games or less last season. People who clearly have a ticket as a lifestyle choice. They should start to be weeded out so that there is more availability for everybody, but don't fall into that category. If you can't go, put your ticket on ticket exchange or transfer it to a friend. And also, just to reiterate, if Arsenal reach the Europa League final, the League Cup final, or the FA Cup final, correct me if I'm wrong, Akil, the credits that will count most will be going to the home matches in that competition, and then what you've gone to in the Premier League. So if you want to go to Budapest next May, and of course we're going to get to Budapest next May, then going to those group stages this autumn at the Emirates will be key to you having a high number of credits and the best chance of getting a cup final ticket.
Absolutely, cool. As people know, you can use the Q&A function as well, so we'll cover off the slides, because I know people don't like to look at slides very much, and then we'll kind of answer a few of your questions, but feel free to use the Q&A. Right, where are we going? Stadium improvements and redesign. So that's me as well. So there's been 2 meetings that the club have held. One was in the Tollington, one was in the Diamond Club, and there's work going on there. We haven't quite seen the designs per se, but there's an agency involved, and I think everybody would agree that the stadium does need some work. It is starting to look a little bit kind of rubbish, to be honest. But what the kind of agency of the club are doing is that they've asked supporter groups and supporters lots of questions about their favourite memories, players, iconic moments, that kind of stuff, and they're going to try and sort of include all of them around the ground. Now, every where you have the players kind of held arm in arm, all of them will be slightly different, so that it won't be the same design on every single one. So, for example, the one where the away fans come will be slightly different, and it could be a little bit more, kind of targeted to the away fans. The one facing Highbury would have hopefully more of a hybrid design, and kind of that's how it kind of is going. I think there is a meeting due probably in the next kind of couple of weeks, maybe the next month or so. So we'll certainly keep you updated. When we can share more about that, we obviously will. But that's probably all that has happened and all we know so far. If I go on, Tim.
Just Akil, on that, when do you think that the design will be updated? When's the stadium going to get its facelift?
Yeah, so first the aim was the September international break, but I think the club have seen that actually there's more work in this than they probably, maybe not that they thought, but there's more talking to fans. I think the club have realised that actually there's quite a lot to take into account here. So it's going to be during the World Cup, when the stadium's going to be kind of when all the stuff's going to be installed. So, and that totally makes sense because we've got a 6-week gap. So it totally makes sense to use that 6-week gap rather than a 10-day international window. If we go to the next kind of slide, it's you, Tim.
Yes, just I know a lot of members have concerns about Soares and Arsenal's engagement with cryptocurrency. This is something we've pushed very hard at the club in meetings, and actually had them improve how they communicate it, explain that it's a cryptocurrency, drop using things like a token for life, because it won't be a token for life, it's a token for as long as the partnership runs. We also took a motion to the Football Supporters Association conference this year. We led in drafting it with some other trusts. The wording is there and has gone out in a newsletter to everybody. In summary, the motion is calling for the football authorities to do more to self-regulate, for Arsenal to do more to communicate exactly what is happening and ensure high standards of best practice, and really to look overall at protecting fans from cryptocurrency. I think if you look at some of the schemes happening at other clubs, they make you wince even more than the Soares scheme, which makes it look quite stable in comparison. The one thing that I always do say, though, is I haven't yet come across an Arsenal fan. By that, I mean someone who is a member, goes to games and supports a club, who has been ripped off or feels they've put a lot of money into Soares without understanding why. We think most of the trading is crypto traders who are getting involved in football and trying to make a quick profit and loss and flip them. If there is anybody out there who is concerned at Soares, who bought in and it isn't what they were expecting, then please put it in the chat here or email into the AST, and we're always happy to take it up for you, and it would be helpful to know. It has raised quite a lot of money as well for Arsenal, so we always try and balance the revenue raising side of things with protecting fans, but just wanted everybody to see that we remain on the case of Soares, because it doesn't feel the perfect partnership for Arsenal. And now to go on to UEFA. Well, the good news on UEFA and European issues is that Arsenal are back in competitions this year. So we took the decision to go to an organisation called Football Supporters Europe. It's the European version of the FSA, to their annual conference to get a bit more familiar with some of the issues. It was very worthwhile. There were 2 senior UEFA representatives there. And gradually, it's much needed and very slow process, but I think UEFA are realising they need to get their act together. They have employed a specific supporter liaison officer whose lead duties will be sort of the staging of games, the away fan experience, policing matters, everything that needs improving, and also replicating some of what the Premier League do with ticket allocations, controlling pricing, seats nearer the pitch and the facilities. We tabled 2 motions here, one on away fan treatment and one on redistribution of revenue. I'll come back to that. And these have all been set out in full in the newsletter we sent you. The other thing that we followed up on, you might recall that we spent a large part of last year continuing to campaign to UEFA about the proposed reform of the competitions following the pressure from the larger clubs and the Super League fallout. We had some relative success in that UEFA changed the competition structure towards the end of the year. And there are two changes. They reduced the group sizes for the proposed new structure. This is from 2024 to 8 games. It was going to be 10, but there is an increase in games from 6 to 8, and there is also going to be an extra knockout round. So in effect, if Arsenal qualify for European competition, you would expect them to be playing 4 more games before reaching knockout proper, compared to at the moment. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the football calendar and particularly on the League Cup, but at least it's not 6 more games. The other thing that was dropped was that awful idea that a couple of clubs got a wild card entry based on their European pedigree. It was the kind of Manchester United don't make it to the Champions League, like happened this year, so they get a wild card place because they're a big club. That's been dropped, but replacing it is still an extra coefficient place, where at the end of the season, they're going to give 2 places to countries that have performed best in the European competitions that year. Now, most years, the Premier League clubs are in the top 1 or 2, so it's very likely, but not guaranteed, that from 2024, the top 5 Premier League clubs will get into Europe. So I guess, Akil, we'll have to change the tune to 5th place is a trophy. But you won't know for certain, and that's what's coming. Our motion on the European issue here was UEFA still have to decide how to redistribute the revenue. And there is a concern that increasingly too much revenues are being paid to a few big clubs, and it's stifling and distorting the league situation. Look at Germany, where Bayern Munich have won it 11 times in a year. Juventus, we know what goes on in Spain, and most of the leagues now get dominated by the clubs that earn the big revenues, as is happening in England. And there's a particular thing that we're campaigning on, which I wasn't aware of until recently, which is 30% of the revenue in the Champions League is also paid on historic coefficient. So, for example, a couple of years ago, when Ajax went further in the competition than Barcelona, they earned a lot less money because Ajax aren't deemed to have the same coefficient as Barcelona. So that's a summary of the European issues. Obviously, we will update you more as the games come. Arsenal are usually very good at looking after fans for away games through Mark Brindle, but we'll always welcome feedback from members about the experience you have. And we have a direct person to talk to at UEFA if we have any concerns as we go on our travels.
Cool, perfect. Now we'll just rattle through the last few. Safe standing. So there was a survey sent out to fans about maybe 2 months ago or something. The response rate was actually quite high for surveys. I think it was around 30%, which for surveys actually is quite good. Many gold members, season ticket holders gave their opinion, as did silver and red members. So the club have quite a lot of data there. At the moment, they're now looking at options. It will be going for a discussion in the advisory board, and essentially it's looking at that data. And I think from what I've seen, and I haven't seen all the results, it looks like that the majority of fans are up for safe standing. They do want to see safe standing, but not everybody wants to actually stand in the safe standings. They want to kind of maybe stay in their own seat, but are supportive of a safe standing. So that obviously then just means, like, if there was an option of the whole lower tier being safe standing, potentially that couldn't happen because the fans are saying we want it, but we don't all want to stand in it. So I think you just got to look at the numbers and just make sure you're not creating something too big, and then potentially upsetting those who want to sit as well. But I think it's going the right direction, Tim. I think it potentially it's been a little bit slower at Arsenal than at other clubs, but let's hope that we can kind of get ourselves in a situation where it's implemented at Arsenal in the next kind of well,
I think we've said, haven't we? This is almost the number one priority, to be on their case throughout this season. Realistically, I think it's this time next year you'd hope that it would be implemented, because they'll need a closed season to do the work on the stadium. I should have also mentioned that UEFA are now starting to approve safe standing in the European competitions. So yeah, slower than we'd like, but fingers crossed this time next year, people will be going into a stadium where it's authorised to stand.
Cool. Government fan-led review latest.
Well, obviously, the changed Prime Minister who kicked off the review of football following the Super League and committed to the proposals in the Tracy Crouch report. Again, you'll have seen a lot of work we've done on that on the last year. We have been monitoring the policy positions of Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, hoping that they'll carry on with that. Rishi Sunak has been very public in stating his support for the reform of football and the white paper and the review. And one of our board members, Zach, was able to be on a call with Liz Truss at the weekend. And she told him that she also was a supporter of the Crouch report and the review, and said that she was a Norwich City fan and supported them as a sort of family club and was totally against the Super League. So we're optimistic that the work will carry on under a new Prime Minister. We think that the white paper to take forward the football regulator might be delayed a little bit, but watch out for more news from us in the autumn.
Yes, in a similar theme, stopping online abuse has obviously been something that we've been working on. We obviously had Granit Xhaka on in one of our meetings talking about how the abuse, affects and impacts players and things like that. There was going to be an online safety bill coming out, but it was the week that Boris Johnson announced he was leaving. So obviously that got delayed because I think the slot in Parliament then was given to something else. So we hope that will come back soon. It is obviously very important, and it's something we'll continue to push. And then just finally, our next kind of events, days for the diary. So we've got two. We've got a virtual element, but we've also got a kind of face-to-face element. And that is Paul Davis's book launch, which is at the Tollington. It's on Wednesday, the 17th of August. As you can see, Paul will be there from around 5 p.m, sort of signing books, having chats with fans, with members. We'll be doing a Q&A with him, probably around sort of 8 o'clock, where we'll kind of talk to Paul about kind of his career and obviously cover off some of the kind of, sort of stories in football and stuff like that. So that will be on Wednesday the 17th. All members are invited. We will send a registration kind of link. So if you register to come, then we obviously just know how many people we're expecting and things like that. For those who can't come, and we appreciate, getting to London, even if you live in England, isn't easy on a weeknight, and we totally appreciate that we've got a lot of members from overseas as well that, as I've said many times, we're absolutely delighted to have. So what we're going to do on the 24th, the week after, at 8 p.m, we're going to have a virtual event with Paul, where we'll be giving away some signed copies of his books that the AST have purchased. We'll talk to his publishers as well about kind of if we can arrange for members to buy them online and get them signed by him and stuff like that, personalized and things like that. So we'll work on that. But you'll get to ask Paul your own questions in this kind of format. So either way, if you can't make it to Tollington, you've got the virtual event to kind of enjoy. And then finally, we've launched a podcast. We've always kind of had a podcast, but we've launched a proper one. I say proper one, it'll just be a bit more consistent. So if you search Arsenal Supporters Trust on all the usual kind of podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, you'll be able to subscribe. So please do so. Our first episode was out last week, and that was with Sam Dean from The Telegraph. And we just, about an hour ago, recorded with Adrian Clarke, who's obviously here at the virtual meeting as well. But the podcast will hopefully just give members and even non-members a little bit of insight into kind of what's going on, and we'll kind of, they're a little bit more of a concise version of these sort of events. Obviously, these sort of events we go into a little bit more detail. I think that's it. Brilliant. So I can stop sharing my screen. I want to welcome, actually, Tim, we've got a few questions, actually. Do you just want to come back and we can just rattle through a few of them? One from Jeremy about sort of the tribute to Maria by Yoko, and I can't agree more. It was perfect. Mark Stewart, as a silver member with a Canon member, disappointed that this season not being able to sit in the family enclosure. No info from the club, found out on Twitter. Mark, if you send us an email, I can look into that for you. So just drop me, I'll write my email address in a second for you, or maybe Chloe, if you can just sort of type my Arsenal Trust email, that'd be great. John, five. Oh, Tim, this has come up actually a few times. I've contacted about it, about the £5.99 for pre-season games. I think Everton season ticket holders got the game for free, and I think Chelsea might have as well. I do know that Arsenal were giving, if you renewed, they were giving you My Arsenal reward points that got you a game. I think that might have only been one game. I mean, do you know much about this, or is it something we can look into?
I think this is just Arsenal trying to maximise revenue. Let's raise it with them. I think something we need to be very hot on this year is Arsenal doing everything they can to support people in what's going to be a very difficult winter with the cost of living crisis. Ticket prices went up 4%. You know, they hadn't for a while, so you can understand that. But I think football has to reflect this winter. It is escapism. It is important in people's lives, but when the energy bills start arriving and the inflation keeps hitting, I think football needs to be mindful of not squeezing us too much. And £5.99 to watch a pre-season friendly feels like more like greed rather than necessity to me. So let's keep pushing the club on that one, Akil.
Yeah, perfect. Do you know if there'll be a screen at each corner rather than two corners? I think it's just the two corners still.
Yeah, it's just existing because anything else means dead seats.
Exactly, which means capacity. What else have we got here? From Matt, do credits listing tickets on the ticket exchange count as much as attendance? And for cup finals, yes. So if you put your ticket on ticket exchange or you transfer it, you get a credit. If you attend, you get a credit. The only difference is you get more My Arsenal reward points for actually attending physically, which is probably right. And then you can obviously use those points for whatever the prizes are going to be this season. But yeah, but in terms of credits, absolutely the same, because and that was something we were pushing from the start. We totally understand that people will have things on. We all have lives outside of football, and there will be times when we can't attend. So yeah, put it on the exchange. Yeah, you'll get the credit. Mark, about digital season passes to the Apple email landed. Process broke when I tried to upload them. Obviously, it's just landed today. I've seen the same email, Mark. Haven't tried it myself yet. But what I would suggest is there's probably a lot of people trying it at the same time. So maybe just give it a day or so. And if the issue's still there over the weekend, then just let us know and we can contact Arsenal. Tim, one for you, maybe from Steve Bath. AST formulated a position on sponsorship by betting firms. I know Nigel's really passionate about this, but you will do your best Nigel impression.
Yes, we have. We did a survey on this, which showed concern from members. We've raised it with Arsenal. Steve, have a look on our website, and you'll see more information there. I do also know that Arsenal recently signed up to the British gambling regulatory body, which has got some stricter protections. You might have noticed, I think last year they were using social media to promote their betting partner, and that's dropped away. I think some of that was inappropriate, and they are trying to meet better standards. So the answer is yes. Come back to us, Steve, if you want anything else. I can see Nigel on the use it or lose it. This is Nigel Payne. Nigel, what I would say to you now is that the ticket exchange is getting better and better. I think you can list tickets. What is it, Akil? How many hours until kickoff now?
3 hours.
3 hours. So if you can't make it from Cornwall, Nigel, you've got 3 hours before kickoff to put that ticket up on the exchange, get it into another fan. There'll be lots of benefits. You'll get the money back for the ticket, and another fan will be using the seat. So hopefully the improved ticket exchange will solve that problem for you.
I know Nigel has emailed in, so if you want more info, I'm sure one of us are happy to call you. Just obviously,
okay, but that's my message. A message for everybody. You know, even if you wake up on the day of the game and you can't make it, you don't feel well, or the kids have got a priority or something. You can list the ticket until quite late now. So do get the ticket on ticket exchange. It creates lots of benefits. I can see a question here about the final in Paris and with Liverpool fans. There is an independent report in that. We co-sponsored a motion at the Football Supporters Europe conference on supporter safety to support Spirit of Shankly. It was clearly a disaster in Paris. It wasn't great. Those of you like me that were there a few years ago for Champions League final, didn't think it was particularly well organised then. UEFA need to do better. Let's hope that we are there to see it done better in Budapest next May.
Yeah, Jeremy, about the women's, the Arsenal players that play for England, we're going to mention that with our guests, so we haven't yet, but there's a reason for that. any truth of the club are looking to reinstate the old crest? I don't think so, Neil. I think it's more about potentially on the outside they may have smaller versions of the crest, but the actual main crest won't be changed. I don't think. I just think there's patents and there's commercial deals and stuff like that.
I can see a question about kickoff times.
Yeah.
The Amazon kickoff times, some of them are later because they're trying to kind of have two matches on the same evening with less clashing. The other thing that you will see this year is more time is going to be given to clubs that compete in Europe, not to play so soon at the weekend. So you will see less use of a 12 o'clock kickoff on Saturday and Sunday, and more use of an evening kickoff on Saturdays and Sundays. And that is primarily coming in because the clubs didn't like playing in Europe and coming back and being put into the I think it was the BT slot of Saturday lunchtime. So there will be more evening kickoffs on Friday, Saturday and Sunday this year.
Yeah, cool. Our loyalty points, same thing as away points, not quite. So home credit is for home matches that get you a ticket to the cup finals. Away points are obviously when you go to away games. So I have 30 points. That means the next game that goes to 30 and above, I can buy a ticket to. So slightly different things.
Yeah. I see a question here which is asking about legal issues around footballers representing their teams when there may be things going on. We can't discuss anything like that this evening because it breaks legal laws of the land. So I hope you'll understand, and we can't put any questions on that to any panelists. A question about a permanent memorial for Maria. I know the club are doing lots of things, and I think that there will be some permanent memorial. There will also be some lovely tributes at the game against Leicester. So for most of us, I think that will be our first home game. You will be able to join in and show your appreciation for Maria at that game.
Yeah, cool. Last few quickly. 10% on ticket exchange that Arsenal claw back. That's something a member called Paul contacted me about today, and we've been doing a bit of work on that. So it's certainly something we'll ask the club. I think Ticketmaster do take a proportion. How soon before matches do tickets become available? 2 months for silvers, 1 month for reds, and then exchanges open until 3 hours before kickoff. Is the North London Forever going to be used pre-game? Yes, I think so. It was also used in America recently. Emirates deal expiring end of 24-25, Tim. Shirt and stadium naming rights.
Juliet Slot, our new commercial director, I'm sure she'll be working on that now. It's probably, you probably think ideally a club would look to know what they're doing in about a year's time.
Jane, we've sort of covered the away ticket touting kind of stuff, so we'll try and do more on that. Thoughts on the updated food and outlets and the prices? Gotta say, I don't know what the prices are. I tend not to get too much from inside, Rob, but if there is an issue, just chuck me a quick email. Graham Price last season, my Arsenal rewards, I think you're talking about, and the prizes, we fed that back. That the problem there was people had points, but there was nothing to really use it for. I think
let me jump in, Akil. What I'll do now, I'll answer a few more online. So
we're done.
We can get over to Nick and Adrian. I just want to come in on one more here, because someone's asked about, are we racking up lots of debt? Obviously quite a topical issue at the moment, as the people vying to be the next Prime Minister of the country are talking about how much you place debt on the country and how much it might be an advantage to the country to have tax cuts and accelerate growth. It's a little bit like a football club, isn't it? Do you build up lots of debt buying good players, thinking that you're qualified to Champions League and earn the money to pay them back? Or ultimately, do you do a Peter Ridsdale? I don't think Arsenal are anywhere near doing a Peter Ridsdale, but what is true is they are using a lot more debt. So they paid off some debts that we had, but replaced it with more debt, which freed up cash flow. We are maximising a long-term overdraft facility we had with Barclays and possibly borrowing some more. Nigel Phillips, our usual financial expert, is on holiday tonight, but we're keeping an eye on it. But certainly you can see it, and I'm sure that Nick and Adrian will come in on this. Arsenal are spending a lot of money at the moment. Let's hope they do it well, and let's hope as the Bank of England increases interest rates that we don't end up paying too much in repayments over the next few years.
Yeah, Cool. So welcome Nick Ames and Adrian. Sorry we have gone a little bit over. Just while you're coming on, the last two questions. Regards to kickoff times, Abraham, will there be a better system of warning? So we work with the FSA, who work with the Premier League, so we are certainly trying to get a lot better at that, or they're trying to get a lot better at that, not us. So we've got that. Gold member, Lawrence, season ticket holders have to ring concession members have to ring the box office to make the seats available. Not sure if that's still an issue. Let me know, and I will check that out for you. There's a question, Tim, about your wall, which I'll let you answer in private. Adrian, Nick, sorry to keep you there. It's just because it's been a while since we've done one of these. So hope you guys are well. Hope you weren't falling asleep there.
No, good evening.
Not
Good
at
evening,
all.
everyone.
How's the summer been, Adrian?
Quiet for me, yeah. I was quite happy to switch off a little bit. It was such a manic campaign, and we got a long season ahead, haven't we, with the World Cup and the extended season. So yeah, I was happy to switch off for a bit, but I got my game face back on, ready to go, aren't we? And it's all very exciting.
So I'll sort of lead the discussion. Got a few questions lined up, but if members want to put questions in the Q&A, board member Chloe is going to come in and out with some questions. And if anybody wants to raise their hand and talk, we're going to now move on to the football related stuff. So if you have got questions about anything we've talked about so far, put them in the Q&A and Tim will hopefully answer them. But anything kind of now more football related on the pitch, let's get excited for Friday in the Premier League season now, I think. Nick, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, the ASC has been established for a while. Governance, ownership, that kind of stuff is kind of our forte, but we've obviously got into lots of other things. KSC, Cronkies, they seem like they're more visible than they were, whether it's just an Amazon documentary or whether they're in a box in America watching the game. They've become a bit more visible. We've obviously been spending a bit of money last 2 summers. How that money's funded, we don't quite know. But are you seeing, does it look like there's more interest from the Cronkies at the moment, or do you think that interest was always there, or do you think they were conscious about not being visible? What's your thoughts?
Firstly, hi everyone. It's nice to be on here as always and to see everybody. And I wish everybody a good and happy season coming up as well, and hopefully a lot of success. I think there's definitely been an increase in visibility to a certain extent. I think maybe that started a bit when Tim Lewis came in, actually a couple of years ago now, because he's very much kind of boots on the ground, boots at the training ground, if you like. Relays a lot of the stuff coming from America to London, for example. I think he was out there on the tour as well. Anyone who's seen the Amazon doc so far would, as Akil just said, think that Josh is the most engaged and proactive and touchy-feely, cuddly owner around. I definitely think it has got closer, and that the lines of communication are clearer, and that there are many more conversations going on with the US side of things than there used to be. I also think that there's a lot of trust now from the owners that they've got the structure they want and the people here in London they want. I think the relationship between Edu and Arteta is very, very strong. Like they do just seem to have a very good relationship at the club away from football. That's really important. Richard Garlick's come in, as we know, and he's a very, very respected administrator, I think, from his previous jobs. And I think there's a kind of happiness to, when things need to run themselves here, let them run themselves. But I do think it's more engaged, and I do think it is a conscious choice. I think it had to be after what happened last year with the Super League, and a lot of people will still be having to either make their peace with that or reconcile what happened then with what's happening now. And I think that's an individual choice for every Arsenal fan to make. And I guess for some people, it's just watching day by day how the running of the club hopefully changes, which it hopefully will. And I also think that to an extent, there was an awareness that things had to stop getting worse. You know, the self-sustaining model was sadly, for reasons we could talk about all night, not getting the club anywhere. It was in free fall for many, many reasons. out of the Champions League, ultimately out of Europe. So how do you speculate to accumulate? How do you get yourselves up to a base level, which I think Tim maybe alluded to just now, means that you can then start being profitable, making money and competing. So a lot of money's been pumped in. I think to that, a lot of money has gone off the wage bill in the last year as well. We've obviously seen Aubameyang go, we've seen Lacazette go, we've seen Kolasinac, maybe not such a big deal, go. David Luiz just a little bit over a year ago. So a bit of money has been freed up. But make no mistake, a lot of this is coming from debt. I think the last results showed, was it just over £200 million, I think, debt to the Cronkies. Now, the good thing you might say about that is that it's internal debt and not external debt. So unless you think the Cronkies are going to do a runner in 5-10 years, that's probably fairly secure, although I'm sure a lot of people will still feel a bit uneasy with it. But there's definitely an appetite now, I think, to understand that Arsenal, in order to compete with the big boys, where the club believes it should be, you got to spend and kind of run faster to make up that ground, and then maybe regroup and think again at how you run the place.
Absolutely, and I think Nigel's going to do a piece on the finances as the kind of window closes and stuff like that. Adrian, as a former player, how is it important that you have a relationship with your owner, or do you really care who the owner is? Because as a player, of course, there's a few of the lads that are kind of from Arsenal, maybe through and through, but generally as a player, does it matter?
No, I think the most important thing is that you have a good relationship with your line manager. See, the players need to have clear communication and transparency and open and honest communication with Mikel Arteta and the coaching staff. And Mikel has to have that same relationship with Edu for obvious reasons. And it just goes on like that. No, I don't think so. The only thing I will say is that it's healthy if the entire club feels as one, and it feels like one family, not one family at London Colney and another part of the family detached in America. I think it's a much better look, and it just feels better if everybody is on good terms and friendly and united and whatnot. And I do think behind the scenes they're making as much effort as possible, especially with the staff. Now, I'm not staff, I'm just a freelancer, but I know that the internal staff staff have various meetings, and I think that when Josh Kroenke's over, he'll go and talk to them and stuff, and as will Vinay. So yeah, I think the communication's better. Leicester, I was jealous of when they won the cup and when they won the league. You just saw from the very top to the players, they all loved one another. You can just see it. It was all as one. And Arsenal were not like that at that time. But I think that things are beginning to change, and I hope that one day we can get to that sort of level where we're all on that same page.
Nick, you mentioned Edu there. I know Edu's had a funny time really at Arsenal. I mean, his first, when he talked to the fans the first time, was, I don't know if you were in that room in the Woolwich suite at the Emirates when Raul and Vinay were there, and it got very heated, very shouty. It was, it was tad uncomfortable. Edu was there in his first month, probably, not really knowing what's going on, because that's not the club he remembered from when he was here. But then it seemed like then there was a little bit, he was popular then he kind of went on the down with Kia, with the agent, and then Raul was there, and Raul went, but now it looks like he's back on the up a little bit. I mean, how would you kind of rate his performance, and generally what the feeling is around Edu?
Yeah, I think there's a feeling that he was very much at the start learning on the job. I think, like, do I think that he was over promoted a bit in being given that job when he was given it? Quite possibly. Do I think he's probably ridden out the worst bits of that? I quite possibly do as well. He's a very good communicator, I think, which is important. I think the club are increasingly keen to push him like that, because he is fairly sleek and explains things quite well, fairly smooth. Sometimes maybe takes credit for things that he didn't necessarily put in place, I would venture to say, but I think on the whole, since the club kind of streamlined a lot of the maybe external influences they were dealing with, and since the scouting and recruitment was streamlined a bit as well, and that kind of thing, I think Edu has definitely come into his own. I think they've been so quick in moving for players this summer and also last summer, to be fair. And I think it's still not perfect, but I think if we compare the Edu now of 2 or 3 years ago, he would probably say himself, I think, just from the occasional briefings and stuff that we have with him, that he is better at his job than he was then. And I think that's quite palpable.
Seems to be more of a plan, Nick, doesn't there, really? Just, they talked about a bit of a plan last year, but we've actually seen it now, young players, Premier League ready, generally. Couple of young players in there as well, and it does seem like there's a bit of a strategy, which potentially is the first time in many years. We've got some great players under Arsene Wenger, but you never quite felt in his latter years there was a real strategy there.
Precisely, the squad's being added to very deliberately every year. Certainly in the last couple of years, with 2 or 3 really key signings, filling key positions, filling needs rather than just bloating the squad. I think it's a slightly different topic. Maybe squad depth may yet be an issue this season in the Europa League, but I think in terms of the players that they're targeting for the specific role that Mikel Arteta wants them to play, it's laser focused now. And I think for quite a while before that, it really wasn't. Maybe there was a bit too much going off agent tips and stuff like that, or taking punts on people. And I don't think that is the way that the club has operated in certainly the last 12 to 15 months.
Good. I mean, talking about the signings, Nick, I'll come to you first, then I'll come to you, Adrian. But Nick, I mean, it seemed like Jesus was a target from day one, and it was a bit like Arsenal just got it done before the tour, and happy days. Was it as smooth as that? How long have Arsenal sort of been looking at him? Do you know?
I think it was as smooth as that. I think that, relatively speaking, it was one of the easier big name, fairly big money transfers you can do. I think it's the kind of one that you're lining up for the entire season prior. Again, we're talking about a plan here, and I think this is a very good example. Obviously, I mean, I don't need to explain to everyone the relationship between, especially Arteta and Jesus, but also Jesus and Edu. Very, very, very important. And although there was the occasional bit of talk, wasn't there, about Spurs being interested or something like that, that was never close, never a goer. And similarly with Zinchenko, especially, that relationship worked. Lisandro Martinez was obviously being talked about for much of the summer, but I think there was always a bit of a realization that he was more likely to go to United, both maybe for reasons of the fee, but also for the relationship with the new coach Ten Hag, of course. And I think they're very happy to have Zinchenko, who is a fantastic character, and as I'm sure Adrian might go into later, can fill an incredible number of roles really well in the squad. So really, so far, recruitment wise, in terms of the big signings, it's been almost as easy as it gets. And the great thing, I think, for Arsenal and for the Cronkies here is that I think the combined fee for Zinchenko and Jesus was 75 million. Is that right? Something along those lines, right, maybe towards 80. And both of those guys are 25. And so we're talking about players who fit the proven winners bracket. Even if they weren't A-list at City, they're still proven winners. You've got to be incredible to be a part of that squad at City week in, week out. The level is so high you wouldn't believe. And yet they're probably still, in the worst case scenario, they're probably still very saleable for a big profit in 2 years' time if things really went pear-shaped. So I think, to be honest, I can't think of 2 better value players this summer that Arsenal could have signed. I think they've got very lucky in the market through the relationships and contacts that they've had at City. And I say luck, it's through having those relationships and being trusted as good people to work with.
I think it was refreshing that the Martinez deal didn't happen, but we had our plan with Zinchenko and didn't sort of hang around. Adrian, coming to you, let's start with Jesus. It's a little bit weird here because we talked about doing the podcast, and obviously me and Adrian spent half an hour recording the podcast. I know what he's going to say here. It's weird. It's like when you watch something.
I'm going to mix it up, Akil. Don't worry, I'm mixing it up. Come on.
But I mean, generally, I think when Jesus was talked about, everyone was maybe excited. Some might have been underwhelmed, but I think he's had a bit of an impact. I mean, what I sort of ask you is, has he surprised you? And what is it about him that has surprised you?
Yeah, he's been better than I expected. I always rated him. He's a quality player. His movement has always been fabulous. His finishing stats haven't been anything to write home about, but he's always been a dangerous player, someone that scores goals, assists goals, can play obviously down the middle or out wide. So he's always been a quality player, but he's never had a run of games. He's never been able to find that rhythm. He's never had a team built around him. So I don't think at Manchester City we ever got to see the complete package of Gabriel Jesus. Now, pre-season is pre-season, and we shouldn't get too carried away by it, but he has been utterly electric. I just can't think of how he could have improved on his performance levels. 7 goals in 5 matches, but it's not just been that. It's been the way he holds the ball. He's dropping into pockets like Lacazette did, but he's not doing it in slow motion. He is dropping there quickly, and then he's spinning defenders and sprinting towards goal and traveling with the ball 20, 30 yards. He's peeling left, he's peeling right, particularly to the left. He's sniffing out chances in the box. He's taking players on inside the final third, showing a real turn of pace. He's looked phenomenal, and I've watched every minute of pre-season, and yeah, I do grade him 10 out of 10. I can't find any fault with what he's done in pre-season, but now is when it matters, isn't it? So I just really hope that he can maintain this level and you know, show everybody what a good player he is. Certain people, certain characters just need to be loved, and they need to know that the manager thinks they are the bee's knees. And I think that he's got that now. He never really had it with Pep, because there was always someone that was a bit better than him, or someone the manager thought was a bit better. He now knows, Mikel Arteta sees nobody as being better than Gabriel Jesus in the number 9 position. And I think it's put an unbelievable spring in his step. I just hope he can maintain this form, because if he does, he's going to have a special campaign.
I just clip that and just try and send it to someone at Arsenal to show Jesus. That was wonderful. Adrian. That was absolutely wonderful. What about Zinchenko? I mean, obviously, I think KT Kieran Tierney has been injured. I think he is back in training now. But you'd expect potentially Zinchenko to start the first game at least. But generally, have you been impressed with him in the last couple of games? And where do you think he'll fit in long term?
Yeah, I mean, he's been neat and tidy. A couple of crossfield balls in both matches that he's just pinged from one wing to the other sort of effortlessly to Bukayo Saka have been a real joy to watch. Good footwork. Obviously, he's technically excellent, isn't he? He's given the ball in any kind of tight spot and he'll wriggle his way out of it and keep the ball. He's neat. I mean, somebody told me, I can't remember who it was. Somebody told me that at Manchester City, they regarded him as in the top 3 technically gifted players at that club, which I think tells you plenty about his ability. I think he'll start left back against Palace, but long term, or in a few weeks or months, it would not surprise me at all if Tierney was back in at left back, with Zinchenko operating in that left midfield position that Granit Xhaka has occupied during pre-season. Played well, actually, Granit. He's looked good, but Zinchenko looks tailor-made for it. And with his movement, his ability to sort of play as a number 10 if you wanted him to, but also as a left back. Him, and what you could see here is some real unpredictable movement, interchanging, underlapping. They could tie opponents in knots down that left-hand side, those two. So that when they're both fit and when that setup's in place, I'm excited to see what happens.
Like Granit Xhaka, there was that moment, I think Saka scored the goal against Chelsea, and considering it was about 1:30 in the morning, I needed something to wake me up, and he kind of flicked it over the man and shot with his right foot, and I gotta say, wow, that was, you know, since Granit gave me 30 minutes to do the Zoom, I've become a fan, because not many people give me time. So but Nick, I mean, obviously Arsenal did their signings early, or certainly did the main ones early, that they kind of feel like they might look for opportunities and stuff like that. But we've seen in the last 2 pre-season games, it's been an unchanged team. Do you think that will have a good impact on the start of the season? Do we feel more ready for the season than we maybe have in previous years?
This is and I'm going to regret this in 48 hours' time, but this is the readiest I've seen an Arsenal team and squad looking in all the time, and in various capacities I've been covering or involved with the club for about 15 years, and I can't remember and maybe Adrian might agree. Like I can't remember a time of more clarity and readiness. The only issue is that obviously there are some injury problems with, we've spoken about Tierney, we've spoken about, Smith Rowe's got an issue, Vieira, who we haven't mentioned yet actually, who is a bit of a bonus for if he does well this season. Tomiyasu still struggling a bit from last season, but yeah, in terms of the stability of the core side that is available, it's in such a groove. We've even seen it in the last 2 or 3 friendlies, and again, there's lots to be excited by in the last 2 games, especially. I don't want to go overboard until we've seen how they come out at Palace, which is a very, very tough game where, they've confounded expectations and flopped before. But I think they're in a fantastic place. And I think there's an opportunity now to steal a march from certain competitors in the league. And I'm thinking especially Chelsea and Man United, actually, who are still getting their act together. And for whom it may take a few weeks, even months longer to get themselves sorted. I think everything looks clear and clean and quick, and it's a good place to be.
Adrian, most sort of ready you've seen Arsenal over the last few years?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, how often do you see an unchanged lineup for 2 back-to-back pre-season friendlies? And we all know that that's the best team. We know that that's the starting 11 that the manager wants. So that's a really healthy place to be. I'll tell you what really stood out for me, especially in the US trip, because the conditions weren't easy. High temperatures, real humidity. The fitness levels were incredible. Really, really fast football. Nobody was blowing up. They looked in great physical condition and also cohesive in the way that they were playing. We saw a lot of the fullbacks tucking into midfield. We saw an insatiable appetite to press. I mean, Everton didn't know what they were doing. I mean, we won the game 2-0, but they were all over the shop because of our pressing. And I think Jesus triggers that. You've now got, if you think about it, you've got Jesus and Ødegaard. I would say that Jesus is one of the best pressing centre forwards around. And you've got Ødegaard, who I think is one of the best pressing attacking midfielders or central attacking midfielders around. You got those two sort of triggering the first moves, and then you got Saka and Martinelli, 2 very industrious players in behind them. Xhaka's squeezing on as well. They've clearly worked on it, and that's what I want to see this year. I think over the last couple of years we've been a bit ad hoc, sort of with the pressing. It's like 1 week we'll do it brilliantly, then the next we wouldn't, or from half to half we'll back off and then we'll do it. And yeah, it hasn't been consistent, but in pre-season, every friendly, we've seen a real desire to press with intensity with a plan. So I hope that continues against Palace. They'll do it to us, and we've got to be ready for that. That is for sure, because that's how they beat us. They bullied us and overpowered us by unsettling us in the defensive third. We've got to do that to them in this game.
Just the one thing where I'm going to temper the excitement is I'm still worried about numbers and depth.
Yes. Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And because I think a lot of what we saw in the final 3 or 4 games of the season was a direct consequence of not having that strength and depth, which will be needed even more for the European season now. I mean, we'll see how seriously they're able to take the Europa League. I mean, I hope very, and I'm sure most people here do too, especially as it's nice to be back in Europe. But I think William Saliba being back and looking fantastic by and large does help, and I think solves what I think was quite a big drop off in quality, if we're honest, at centre back when they had to move things around. I'd just like to see a bit more maybe on the wings. Definitely, maybe one more in central midfield, although that's maybe a bit of a luxury. And possibly there's a bit of an issue at right back if they can't get a consistent tune out of Tomiyasu fitness-wise. But I think definitely there's sort of 2 or 3 positions where if they could get that depth in before the end of the window, things look very sleek. But it's going to be a high workload this season.
I wouldn't disagree with any of those. I think central midfield for sure. The gaping absence really is of a third frontline striker. I think we have to sign a third striker. I think as excellent as this window feels and as good a shape as the team is in, if we go into this campaign with just Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah, I think that's a big gamble. And we saw in January, we gambled on having a small squad, and for a while it worked great because there was no excess baggage. Everyone was on the boat, as Arteta says, and motivated because they felt part of it. We were too light. And if anything happens to Jesus injury wise or to Nketiah, we're way too light. And with 5 subs this season, I think, and when things aren't going well, because there'll be a game. It might happen at Palace. It could easily happen in that game. But in the first few weeks, we're bound to be chasing a deficit. We need to throw caution to the wind. And if you've only got one striker to add to the mix, a choice of one, then I think that's not enough, really. I think we need a horses for courses approach. We've got Jesus and Nketiah, 2 very similar stylistic centre forwards, I'd say. What I'd like in terms of style of the third striker is something a little bit different. When you can sense that opponent maybe has a weakness in the air, for example, you can start to hoist some more crosses in. You can bring on a taller centre forward in the sort of Giroud mould. So I think
what's the limit of Giroud doing now?
Yeah, what's he up to? I mean, he keeps winning everything wherever he goes.
Milan, didn't he?
But yeah, we need. I mean, do you agree, Nick? I mean, I think that third striker, I think, is a must as far as if I was in charge, anyway.
Just before Nick comes in, I mean, that was Paul and Manoj's questions. I hope Adrian covered that for you nicely. Sorry, Nick.
No, I think you're spot on. And while I think it's great they signed Eddie down for a new deal, I think there's still a question over what he can do over the course of a season in terms of starts and minutes. And I think one more face would be useful. We've not mentioned Gabriel Martinelli yet, and I mean, my personal view is that could have a fantastic future as a centre forward, where maybe in the long term he convinces me more than out wide. I think he's such a varied and explosive finisher that I would love to see at some point in his career him get that run. But I accept that maybe there's a role elsewhere in him that he's more tailored for at the moment, out on the left. Yeah. So I do think it's important. They've obviously sent Balogun out on loan now to Rennes in France, which I think is a good move for him. He should expect to be a frontline striker at a good level. You would hope that maybe in the next month or so, I think Adrian's right, a more experienced head, maybe even an older head, your kind of Giroud type who doesn't necessarily mind being sort of wheeled in and out here and there, but knows how to get around a Premier League pitch in a Premier League game would not be a bad idea. I don't know, I've not heard any names or anything like that who they might be targeting. Unfortunately, in that position, it's been very quiet on the centre forward front since Jesus came in. But I certainly
so I was going to say, Nick, do you think Arsenal would go against? I mean, I think literally everyone they've signed in the last 2 years has been under 25 or 25. Do you think they would go against that and has the Willian sort of deal scarred them a little bit there? I know we're not looking at someone who's starting games more as an option, but I don't know. Would they look for someone younger maybe who can develop? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The answer is I don't know, but I think that's a fair point about getting a veteran in that doesn't fit the kind of policy, does it? And it maybe doesn't fit the plan. So maybe you're right. They could bring in someone. I think it would need to be somebody with a bit of experience of the league. That's all. I think for the next striker, it'd be good to have that someone who can come in and make an impact.
Yeah. Chloe, I don't know if you're around. Sort of, there's a few questions there. I think Adrian keeps nicking them. So,
do I? Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. But before we answer them all, let's get a few of them in.
Yes. So Neil Bradford is interested to understand whether either of you have got any update or insight into the Pepe situation.
So let's go Nick first in terms of transfer in and out, and then Adrian, what do you see his role this season?
Yeah.
Very quiet on Pepe. I mean, I was really expecting, to be honest, 2 or 3 months ago, I thought that by now he'd probably end up, for example, on loan to a Serie A club or something like that, which seems to me still the probably best possible solution. I can't see how you find a buyer. I mean, Arteta through the seasons has constantly bigged him up and then thankfully ended up being disappointed by him time after time, which is frustrating because I think most of us have seen at times that there is a player there and there's certainly an excellent left foot, if nothing else. I think in order probably to get in one of the winger targets they would like to sign, it would probably require having a deal in place to move Pepe on. I think there might be some moving parts like that at play at the moment. And yeah, it seems a bit jammed where that's concerned.
Yeah, yeah. From a football point of view, I think that he had a disappointing pre-season. He had opportunities to start games, but he didn't impact them at the same level as Saka, as Martinelli, as Eddie Nketiah. He looked a little bit off the pace. I think almost all of the players were excellent, particularly on the tour of the US. But Pepe wasn't. He was very much on the periphery and one or two flashes, but that's about it. So I don't think that helped his case with Mikel Arteta. And as a consequence, yeah, I probably would expect him to be moved out on loan this season and that we bring somebody else in. Yeah, I think that's the most likely scenario. He's had a lot of chances, and yeah, I'm not sure how willing that the manager will be to give him too many moving forwards, unless, of course, he's unbelievable in training, or if he comes off the bench and changes a game. That can change everything, can't it? But the signs haven't really been there, I have to say, over the last few weeks.
I think Arteta played all of. Sorry, Akil. I think Arteta played all of his Pepe cards with us in the media in about March, when he spent half a press conference telling us that he's seen a different Nico, and then Pepe promptly came on and frankly stank the place out in 3 successive sub appearances, and I've not heard a word said since. But seriously, I think he's probably run out of road with this management if they can find a taker, and it's. We all know how expensive a deal he's on and how much he costs. It's not an easy one to do.
Just on that, Chloe, before we sort of get to the other questions, but Nick, I mean, in terms of, you talked about your concern earlier about his squad depth with the Europa League and things like that, and do you think Arsenal then, if they don't find buyers for Nico Pepe, for Ainsley Maitland-Niles, for players like that, I think Hector Bellerin will probably move on, but will they kind of just think, actually, it's worth keeping them just for the Europa League, at least the group stages, and then maybe see something in January?
If the player's shown the right attitude, which I think will be important to Mikel, I think anyone who is sulking and visibly not wanting to get involved would be frozen out. We've seen that before, haven't we? If the players show the right attitude, they'll be available for selection, and they could well be useful for FC Dudelange away or something like that in the Europa. But no, I think I don't think anyone's career is over until they're out the door, as long as they're applying themselves day in, day out in training. So no, don't write anyone off, but I think there'll definitely be efforts to do a deal for definitely Pepe, and also, as you mentioned, Maitland-Niles.
So sticking with this theme of moves out, Steve Bath is asking whether there is any need to be concerned around young talent. We've obviously seen Hutchinson transfer to Chelsea. Tavares and Charlie Patino have both gone out on loan, which is not unusual for players at their age, to be fair. But panellists, have you got a view on that?
It's disappointing. Yeah, disappointing about Hutchinson, isn't it? It's disappointing because I think there was a real talented player there. Don't know whether, he scored some great goals for the under-23s, but we don't know if he'd be able to step up and translate that at first team level. And I don't know. Yeah, it was obviously a move that Chelsea had been cultivating behind the scenes. You've got to always be aware of that, haven't you? And maybe he looked at the pathway and he looked at guys like Saka and Martinelli and Smith Rowe and thought, these are young players. Everyone loves them. How many chances am I going to get in those positions? Sometimes as a young player, even if you don't want to leave, you've got to look yourself in the mirror and say, how realistic is it that I'm going to make it here? And sometimes you've got to make that tough call and go elsewhere. So, we'll have to wait and see how his career transpires. With Tavares, I think it's the right move. He struggled, didn't he? I wasn't a big fan of his defensive play at all, really. So it was one of those. We bought him. He's quick, eye-catching, but ultimately he's not at the same level as Tierney and Zinchenko. So I think for him, going to Marseille is a tremendous move. I wish him all the best.
Yeah, similar thoughts to Adrian's really. On Hutchinson, disappointing, big talent, definitely rated around the place, but until something like this becomes a trend, if we're looking in sort of 1 year, 2 years time, and this is happening constantly, then I think there's a question to answer. I don't see that being the case yet. I haven't seen too many gems really slip through in recent years, and obviously they did well to keep Balogun a year or so ago when there was a lot of people sniffing around. I don't know what Chelsea are saying to all these young players, having also got in Chukwuemeka from Aston Villa on big money when they're not exactly a club renowned for their pathways. So they're clearly putting something interesting in front of them. And Tavares, just the same as Adrian said. Really, I think it'll be interesting to see how he improves, if he kicks on after a full season at a big club at a decent level. We'll see if he's got anything, I think.
Just a quick one on Patino while we're on it. I think it's a good low move for him with the manager. I think Michael Appleton is a guy that looks after young players. Got a very good eye, I think, for talent, young talent. He's renowned for it. He brought in, I think, Brennan Johnson at Lincoln a couple of years ago, and we've seen what he did with Nottingham Forest since. So I think he looked after Brooke Norton-Cuffy for a period last season as well. He did really well. He's highly rated, isn't he? Young right back. So I think they've picked the coach there. In terms of the team, Blackpool, I think, might struggle. They might be in the bottom half of the Championship this season. So it won't be easy for him. And the Championship is brutal and physical. And I think the one thing about Charlie is that he's not a bulky lad, is he? He's very slim and quick on his feet. The Championship will test him massively, and it'll be sink or swim time for him, I think. So I hope he does really, really well. But it's not going to be easy, because that is a hard division to come into, and he'll be playing for a team that might be, not have that much of the ball in certain matches.
Just before Chloe, I'll come back to you with a few more questions. I mean, we talked about these players who are kind of squad players and stuff. I mean, Nick, you said it was quiet on Pepe. Any other kind of Torreira must be quite close to going? Is there anything about? I mentioned I think Bellerin will go, but is there anything more concrete on that, or anyone outgoing? To be honest,
nothing yet. I think we'll see Pablo Murray out of the door pretty soon. I don't think that's happened yet, has it? But I'm fairly sure that is
Galatasaray, was it?
Yeah, and I think there's some Italian interest there too. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on in the near future. They'll be looking to move on someone like Runas and the keeper who we've all forgotten about. I think.
Bless him.
Apart from that, there's nothing particularly close. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Reece Nelson, someone like that, I think, who I don't think has gone anywhere yet, and I haven't heard of any immediate interest. So it's fairly quiet. I think Bellerin will hear something soon, and I would have thought that Murray will be close-ish.
Cool. Chloe, back to you.
Thank you. And what about Saliba? We've had a couple of questions in from Nicholas Charles and from Paul Cheshire. Paul in particular says he's been impressed with him pre-season. What do we think might happen in terms of new contract for him?
Let's do contract, Nick, and then Adrian tell us about his pre-season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect they'll be well down the line thinking about that, and I'm sure that if he keeps sort of purring as he has been, and I think there's a good chance, by the way, that he could start on Friday night, especially given the right back situation and the fact that Ben White can fill in there. I'm pretty sure that they've got that under wraps, and it will happen. I couldn't give a timescale, but I'm fairly sure that they will not be making any mistakes with him, because I think he's impressed a lot of people since he came back, and also last season in France when he was certainly for half to 2/3 of the season one of the best defenders in the division.
He was in the team of the year as well. Yeah, Adrian, impressed with him?
Very impressed. Yeah. I've just written a piece on him for the Premier League with my tactics column, actually, ahead of that game. Just looking at some of the numbers that he produced in French football last season were astonishing, really. On the ball, with the progressive passing into midfield. Actually, in pre-season, he's been quite safe, risk averse, I'd say, with his distribution. But in France, he was known really for playing forward passes, for travelling with the ball at his feet. So I think once he gets his feet under the table and a bit more confidence, we'll see a real marauding centre back. What's not to like? He's massive, 6'3". He's quick, really good recovery pace. And as we saw in the Emirates Cup and overseas, when he's put in a tight spot, he's stitched up a little bit of a pass. He's got that calmness to sort of use quick feet, drop of the shoulder, and he'll just slip the ball to a teammate. He looks really, really comfortable, I've got to say. So, an excellent pre-season from him. And he's in the team on merit. I cannot see the starting 11 without William Saliba at Crystal Palace. I think he is now the partner to Gabriel, and I think it's his shirt at the moment to lose. I think, unfortunately for Ben White, he's just been a little bit outshone and shunted to right back because of the needs must with Tomiyasu's injury, and therefore, unless Saliba struggles, I think White might have lost his place in the short term. Now, White at right back is my one worry really ahead of the Palace game. He hasn't looked entirely comfortable. He's dived in a few times and not been sure of himself positionally. And he might be up against Wilf Zaha, who is quite handy, as we know. So, and if it's not Wilf Zaha, it might be Eze, it might be Jordan Ayew, guys that have hurt us in the past, Odsonne Edouard as well. So, yeah, White at right back is obviously, we hope that's a short-term thing. It's harsh on White because by and large he's been excellent, but I think Saliba has shown that he maybe has got one or two extra tools in his box compared to Ben White.
And Nicholas Charles is also interested on the current position with Saka, and in terms of contracts. And he's also pointed out we're being consistently linked to the Leicester midfielder, Tielemans, but he isn't sure where he would play if he did sign for us. So do we need to give some consideration to that? And potentially might that mean that an existing player moves on as a result if we were successful?
Nick first on the kind of Saka contract talks, and is Tielemans an option? And then Adrian, if he does come in, where would you play?
Yeah, Saka contract talks. I think there's been communication and contact between the parties. I suspect that gets done. It might be harder to get him to sign the next contract after this if Arsenal still aren't where they ought to be. But I think this one, which club in Europe now wouldn't want Bukayo Saka? Also, which one could maybe afford him? I don't anticipate a problem with this, although these things can drag on more than people would like and make people a bit nervy. We've seen that before. But personally, I'm quite relaxed about that happening. And so what was the other one?
Tielemans.
Tielemans, yeah, that's a long-standing interest. I suspect that is going to go right to the wire, looking for the best possible deal with Leicester. That's definitely seems to be the way that one is heading. I'll leave to Adrian in terms of where he might fit in.
Yeah, it's a good question. He's a box-to-box player, really. Could partner, Thomas Partey or Granit Xhaka in midfield, I think, potentially. But in the setup that we've got at the moment, with one deep line player and two box-to-box guys, he would probably be competing for the Xhaka position or the Ødegaard position. Now, I can't see him taking the captain's place. So then you're looking at the left side of that midfield three. But earlier on tonight, I said that I can envisage Zinchenko playing there. And out of the three, I think I want to see Zinchenko there. I think that would be mine, numero uno. But Tielemans is a good player. We've seen him score goals. Obviously, scored one of the great FA Cup final goals. He's a talent. He'll get stuck in as well. He's not that quick. He can be found out with a lack of recovery pace, a little bit like Granit Xhaka. Not elite mobility, I'd say, inside the engine room. But he is a really good player. And he would, give us great depth, but I don't know whether he would walk straight into the starting 11 right now. I think he would be someone that would probably play in the Europa League and then have to prove his worth. But that's what a good place we are, where we've got Tielemans, who's long been regarded as one of the brightest sort of talents in midfield in European football. not guaranteed a start if he comes to Arsenal. It shows where we are at the moment. And I'd like to see him come, but if I could only have one midfielder, I think I would like somebody that can step in for Thomas Partey if he's not there and do that role. So
I think that was that. Yeah. So I was going to say, actually, sorry for jumping in there, but that's a couple of, just for time, that's a couple of questions we've had. We've had from one from Manoj, about kind of, do we need a bit of a Partey backup? I mean, ironically,
maybe we could sign Ndidi instead. I don't know.
Ironically, it was Crystal Palace away where he pulled up with the injury, and then we thought, okay, fine, we went to Chelsea and won. But generally, that's when we thought, that probably cost us 4th place in the long term. Actually,
can I ask Nick? I want to ask Nick actually. If something happened to Thomas Partey, say he was injured, would you envisage Sambi Lokonga coming in for him or Granit Xhaka dropping back?
I probably would have thought that Xhaka would drop back instinctively, because you probably need a bit more of a physical and maybe experienced presence in that position. Although I think we're still waiting to see just how much Lokonga can kick on, aren't we? I would personally prefer Partey, and I also think if you've got Zinchenko operating in, Xhaka, not Partey. And then if you've got Zinchenko operating in the midfield to one side, maybe Odegaard to the other, if you're playing a sort of straight 4-3-3, you've got the movement and ingenuity elsewhere with Xhaka anchoring it. I think that'd be okay for a run of games. You might not want it over an entire season, for example.
Cool. So we've not got too long left, so should we just quickly rattle through? I do want to get through the questions.
Yeah, so I think one that's interesting from Neil Bradford is about Emile Smith-Rowe. If you think about the depth of the conversation tonight, all these, fantastic players and the excitement that they're bringing, he's asking, what about Emile Smith-Rowe? How does he fit into this new regenerated team?
Adrian?
Yeah, it's a good question. He absolutely fits in. I think that when he's fully fit and firing, he pushes Gabriel Martinelli all the way for that spot on the left wing. I don't see much between them at all. I'm a little bit like Nick. With Martinelli. I think there's a centre forward in there, like a Luis Soares type striker, but Mikel Arteta never plays him there. He never takes the opportunity to use him down the middle, which I don't see him ripping that up and starting again. So I think...
Also, with Martinelli's age, he will have dips in form, and he will be taken out of the line. I mean, he didn't play against Crystal Palace when we lost there. So
he offers so much energy and so much drive, and he's been great in pre-season. He's got a goal threat, but Smith Rowe adds all of those things as well, doesn't he? Probably a little bit more guile there. Coming in on his right foot, he can maybe produce slightly better end product at times. So no need to worry about Emile Smith-Rowe at all. He can obviously also cover for Odegaard, but then does Fabio Vieira? Is he the understudy for Odegaard? So, yeah, Smith-Rowe's got nothing to worry about. All he's got to concern himself with is getting fit and putting himself in a position where he can challenge Martinelli. I think those two, for instance, if they both stayed fit for the entirety of the season, I would hazard a guess they'll both play about 20-odd games each.
So I'm going to ask you about a couple of players together. So Mukta Khan is asking, how do we feel about Odegaard being made captain? And Nicholas Charles is interested on how we're feeling about Xhaka. Should he stay or should we move him on, considering, the last few years and the journey he's been on?
Shall I take Odegaard first and then Adrian take Xhaka?
You stitched me there. Hospital pass.
Well, let's both do both. Odegaard, I think is a very good choice as captain. With tossed around the Arsenal captaincy debate for years and years and years, but they value him for what he can do on the pitch, obviously, but the moment he got in that dressing room, he fitted in. He's one of the boys, but he can hold a room as well. I know he gets on very well with Mikel. They, have lots of very sort of adult technical conversations about football together. I think they have a similar vision, a similar outlook. And let's not forget he's been his international captain for Norway at a very young age too, I think. I think he radiates the sort of seriousness, but enjoyment of the game that Arteta wants to encapsulate in his players, and everyone respects him. As I say, he holds a room and he holds a group of players, and I think for a player as young as he is to be quite as magnetic as that is something. And we see him on the pitch too. He's not pulled out 10 out of 10s every single week. There have been a few ups and downs in his form, but he's always showing. Always shows, and when he's at his best, there's not many people as good as him in the league. So I think it's a great choice, and I think it's really Wes Mikel's first choice for quite a long time when he looked at this group. And now I will land Adrian with the hospital pass.
I don't see any urgency in moving Granit Xhaka on. All I'll say is that it feels like the team is moving towards a place where they can live without Granit Xhaka. And then it's up to the club, isn't it, to make that call in terms of possibly being one of the most saleable assets, someone you can get a very good fee in for still. I suppose it's not beyond the realms of possibility if we signed a Tielemans that we were then in a position where you could sell Granit Xhaka for similar money. But I think he's got a part to play. As we just said, he could be that key backup at DM. And also he's doing a pretty good job, as a sort of more pushed on midfielder as well. So, yeah, no issue. I've always had a sort of up and down relationship with Granit Xhaka as an analyst. I can see lots and lots of positives and loads of good things, but we all know that every now and again he'll let you down with a moment of madness. He'll switch off. He'll let a runner go, or something will happen. I think, but as long as we can all live with that. And accept that he does bring a lot of quality things to the team, then he's still got a part to play. So
just on Granit, Adrian, I mean, I mentioned it in the podcast, but it was very noticeable on Saturday when the players did their little huddle before the game. It was Odegaard and Xhaka alongside each other. It was Granit that was the one talking, clapping, shouting, motivating. And Odegaard was there clapping, kind of. He's more of a lead by example captain, I think. But for me, it showed Granit's role in the squad as still being quite big. And I think you'll see it in the Amazon documentary as well. There's a line when he says, "Don't worry, guys, just blame me. Everyone else does. Don't worry." but what he meant was, I think it was after the Liverpool game when he got sent off, and he was like, you know what, he'll take it. He will take the stick, but he's protecting the young players.
And you've got to have balance in a squad. You can't have a squad full of 21 to 25-year-olds. You can't. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's great to have so many. It's exciting. We're all on board with this team because we think that they're going to grow and develop, and they are. But you need one or two senior figures there of good character that are popular to keep the place ticking over and keep standards up. So yeah, I think Granit's got a role to play, and he's also a really good player. You can't forget that he's a really good player. But the days of him being an automatic first pick, I'm not saying they're gone, but they're approaching.
I mean, 2 minutes. Let's just pick the
So
fire.
We'll go quick fire. So someone's flagged El Neni. Obviously, he's been a great servant, fantastic backup, and we expect he'll continue to do that. Nick?
Great for those Europa League away games.
Yeah. Spank him in the top corner, won't he? Yeah, one a group stage.
And he doesn't mind doing it either. He's signed that new contract, being very well aware of what his role is, and respect to him for that. So I'm sure he will come in useful, even if we don't see loads of him.
And we forgot about him when we were talking about what if something happens to Partey. El Neni has been the go-to, hasn't he? Actually, and he hasn't let the team down. So it's not a major issue, I guess.
It covers Chloe Mark's one first, because with James's one, we've got just something that I'm going to mention after. Come on.
A lot of interest around Amazon, clearly. Great comment from Mark Stewart. When will Stuart McFarlane stop taking photos and start coaching us? For those of you, myself included, who haven't yet seen it and are only aware of the chat about it all, I look forward to that.
It's just on Stuart, obviously, he's been covering Arsenal for 30 years. He's a good mate of mine. He's actually said he'll come on to an event like this as well and talk a little bit about his role and stuff like that. So we will actually get him on, because he'll probably be trending tomorrow night. But he gives this absolute epic team talk. I think it's before the Spurs game. And he just talks about how he loves the club. and how the fans love the club, and like get out there, every tackle will be cheered. Look in the faces of fans. If you score, you will see the love. And it was, yeah, I mean, bless it. If anyone that knows Stuart well knows he's actually quite shy. So for him to do this in the dressing room is actually quite a big thing. Nick, you've worked with him. I mean,
yeah, you've summed him up well. Like he's more unassuming than you might actually think. So for him to do that, it would have been a big thing. And you know, I know it. You know, it meant the world to him, and Arsenal means the world to him. And I think it was a shrewd choice by Arteta, and he clearly got the response, didn't he? Because Arsenal roared into that game within minutes.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Chloe, last question.
So last question again on the Amazon piece from James Hillier. So there's been a lot of talk from Arteta and the club about wanting to reconnect with fans, improve that connection. So he's asking whether the Amazon documentary is part of that, but also whether you think it will actually end up to be a good or a bad decision for Arsenal to have been involved. We've obviously seen other clubs historically do similar formats.
I haven't seen it yet, so I haven't seen any of the clips. I think if you come away from it with no major damage, then that's a good thing. I don't know. I think the players would have probably preferred it not to happen. I think the manager probably would have preferred the cameras not to be there. But if that decision's been made, you've got to hope that the edit comes out favourably. And I'm sure we'll get to see some good stuff, some bad stuff, hopefully lots and lots of insightful things. Personally, I don't think I would have loved being part of that, but it is what it is. It's been filmed now. We didn't get the happy ending that we wanted. But my only hope is that, because the feel-good factor is so good at the moment, and at Emirates Stadium at the weekend, it was joyous, really. It was a great performance. Fans were in such a good mood. I don't want all old stuff to be dredged up and for there to be, negative noise around the team. I hope that we can people can just watch it and there's not too much chatter about it. That's my hope moving forwards.
I think, yeah, to the question, the documentary will be absolutely fine. Won't cause any damage at all. When did you last see one of these Amazon Club docs or Netflix ones, and it was a hatchet job? If anything, they're a bit too kind. So I think it, there'll be a few bits that people will laugh and take the mick out of. I think we've seen a few of them going around today with the Arteta, "You'll never walk alone," and I can promise you there's going to be a few more as well as it comes out from what I've seen. But no, I would, that'd be the least of my worries, honestly.
Right. Well, guys, I think we're probably going to call it there in terms of this part of the event. Chloe, thank you for pretty much co-hosting this in the end. It's quite nice to have someone to just support, because I could pour my drink without anyone noticing. But yeah, now Chloe, thank you very much. Thank you to Tim earlier, who's just dropped off. Oh, actually, yeah, sorry, Lionesses. Someone has just mentioned the Lionesses, and actually that was a question, sorry, Nick and Adrian, that I was going to ask you. Obviously, Arsenal players, we'll just quickly cover this, but Arsenal players involved and stuff like that. We talked about it with the Maria tribute as well, but I mean, how bloody good was that on Sunday, and how proud should we be as Arsenal fans, because at the end of the day, or people connected with Arsenal, because Arsenal would be the pioneer of the women's game for so long. Yeah,
it's right. I think, with Vic Akers and what he did in the early days, we were the pioneers, and we've always placed a really big importance on the women's team, much more importance than anyone else did for many, many years. And I think it's quite fitting, really, that the England captain was an Arsenal star, and that the player of the tournament, top goal scorer, was also a Gooner. And yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And you know what? My little daughter, she's only 6. She's starting to get into her football. And she went to sort of a holiday club this week. And she came back and she said, Daddy, do you know who Beth Mead is? Like this. She never asked me about any Arsenal player. She probably doesn't know who Gabriel Jesus is. She doesn't know about any of these stars, Bukayo Saka. She said, do you know who Beth Mead is? I said, I do. She plays for Arsenal. And then she went on to say how the PE teacher had been telling everybody about her and her exploits and whatnot. And it's just stuck there. And it's a great role model for her as she wants to join a football team. She wanted to join one before this tournament. And that sort of desire has only been intensified now. And yeah, you know, girls like Beth and Leia have done brilliantly. It's awesome.
Spot on about the legacy of Arsenal too. I was lucky enough to be at the game at Wembley on Sunday, like maybe quite a few others here were, and I mean, great atmosphere. We've all seen it, but one of the first things that actually came into my head at the end was back when I worked at Arsenal in a previous life years ago. I used to deal a lot with, as they were called then, Arsenal ladies, and talk to Faye White a lot, and people like Claire Wheatley, Kira Grant, Kelly Smith, Alex Scott, who we see a lot, having a fantastic broadcaster media career now. And none of this stuff that we see now happens if it's not for the effort that they put in raising the profile of a game, but also getting a better deal for women playing football, which they did such a big effort and stride towards. And there's still a long way to go. But I think Arsenal, in terms of, and obviously Vic, who Adrian's mentioned, was just, we could talk all night about Vic. So I think Arsenal can be very proud of their role, both leading up to Sunday night's game, and then obviously seeing Leah Williamson and Beth Mead on the pitch doing so fantastically was something different. So yeah, I think every Arsenal fan here can share a lot in what has happened with England and with the game generally.
Absolutely, long may it continue. We are hoping to do a bit of a special on the Arsenal women's team and hopefully get a player on. So it's something sort of for later on this year. Adrian, Nick, I think we have gone over time, but I would like to thank you for your time, for your efforts this evening. And yeah, look forward to the start of the Premier League season, where hopefully Friday night Arsenal will be top of the league, because they're not at the moment because of Bournemouth.
Absolutely. Can I just say while I'm on, I'm going to get a plug here.
Sure.
The Breakdown Live is the match day show. So if you can't get to the games, we're going for a bigger and better show this year. It's going to be hour long, from the team news right up to the kickoff. And on home games in particular, it's going to be a bit special. We've got a box kitted out in the clock end. I think Arsenal My Rewards competition winners are going to be in there as part of the studio audience, along with us, with myself and Nick Bright, and we're gonna hopefully have a few surprise special guests pop by into that box during the build up to the games, and maybe at half time and afterwards too. So we're going to try and transport the viewers to Emirates Stadium on a match day, and yeah, hopefully you can check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Arsenal match day show on obviously on match days.
Yeah, Breakdown Live is cool, but yeah, it's in essence the match day show.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. All right. Well, we have got a little bit of a special. I'm going to let all the guests and panel go. Talking about special guests dropping in, we actually had a current Arsenal player sort of drop in on us, who was meant to come live tonight to kind of just do a little bit and speak to fans. Unfortunately, had a few bits gone on, so we did do a bit of a pre-record. So everyone who's kind of stayed is going to be rewarded by this. I've seen quite a few people are still here with us. It's kind of embargoed until tomorrow, but as you're here, I'm going to let you watch it. So it is an interview with Cedric Soares. It's about 15 minutes if you want to stay. And Cedric's actually been quite good with the supporters and the supporters trust. And after the Granit Xhaka interview, approached us and said, if there's anything I can ever do to help, I would love to be closer to the fans, and all that sort of stuff as a slightly experienced player. So we thought we'll get Cedric on ahead of the season. And yeah, I'm just about to play his interview. But Nick, Adrian, feel free to stay. If you have to drop off. Chloe, the same. All the members watching, thank you very much. After the Cedric interview, I will close the kind of event. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have gone over, but hey, it's the Premier League starting. We got to be excited, right? So up the Arsenal. Let's hope for 3 points on Friday. And hopefully see you all very soon, and see you at the Paul Davis event. Cheers. And you will about to see my little interview with Cedric Soares. Enjoy. So we've now come to the part of the event and the evening, or the podcast as you listen to it. And with a bit of a surprise, I've actually got a surprise guest. Those of you watching will be able to see him. those of you listening are about to hear him. It's Arsenal right back Cedric Soares. Cedric, how are you?
Hello, I'm very good. Thank you so much for asking. Hope
Yeah,
you well as well.
Yeah, very well, very well. Thank you so much for sort of doing this. I know you've been a keen sort of supporter of supporters, and you're keen to engage and do what you can to help us as well as kind of the wider supporter base. So we do thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to start with the tour, Cedric. It's obviously was you went to America. There was lots of stuff around it. The results were good. We saw lots of good videos of it, seemingly everyone getting on, new signings coming in. But I mean, from your perspective, how was the tour?
I think the tour was very positive, to be fair. And the group is fantastic. It's a young squad, but everyone is going have a very good relationship between each other. Also, the new signings they adapted quite. Has been really good. I think we also train in a high intensity, even higher than last year, and we are trying to improve our game every time. And I think we had, of course, good results. It's just the start and the preseason, but it's always better to win. And we are all here fighting for the same thing, that is win things for Arsenal. And I think a great group like this can achieve more stuff,
Absolutely. And I mean, how ready do you think the team are right now? Because sometimes it is difficult. Some players come back later than others, and we had that with a few of our players joining us late. But generally, how ready do you feel for Friday night?
We started quite early this year, to be fair, and I think we prepared and we worked in most of the details of the game. Of course, it's always difficult, like you said, and a few players come after and stuff like this. But in general, I think we are prepared. The team feels very confident. Everyone is helping each other. Everyone is fighting for the same thing in the same direction, what is very important as well. So I think, of course, during the season, you can always improve because you have longer time working together. But I think the idea is very clear. The team knows also what the manager wants, and has been a really positive one. Yeah.
And obviously, Arsenal have signed a few players. I know fans are very excited to see kind of some of them, including Jesus and Zinchenko and all of them, Marquinhos as well. How have they settled in? How have the new players settled in? Because it's, we forget that these are human beings going to a new job effectively. So how have they settled in?
Exactly. To be fair, they are fantastic persons, and this helps a lot. Everyone came to help. Everyone is with a very positive vibe as well, brought great energy to the group. All of them, to be fair. I have been really close to them, and they have adapted really quick. Feels like I know them forever now.
Did you know any of them before? Or not really?
Jesus, I played a few times against him. Even direct, he played a few times left winger against me, and Alex as well, Zinchenko as well. He played direct against me. Marquinhos just met, same language though, and Fabio as well, the same language, so makes it very very easy. Matt is a great person as well. It's very social. So I don't know if I'm forgetting someone.
You got them.
I think that's all, but has been a very good surprise because they're all really nice persons, and it's easy to communicate with them. It's easy to approach them, and they have been very good as well. They have been helping the group, helping in the games as well. So I look forward to play with them.
I think obviously Arsenal fans know about Zinchenko and Jesus, and I think Matty Turner's obviously a second keeper for us, and Marquinhos is a young player. But what can you tell us about Fabio Vieira? What can we expect from him? Obviously, his name, he's got a lot to live up to with his name. But we hear from Portugal and we hear from kind of Porto and people, you know, they're close to him, who are saying we've got a real player here. Because it came as a bit of a surprise for Arsenal fans because it was out of nowhere.
Yeah, because he he didn't have a so long career yet, and he was also a big surprise this last season in Portugal. He had a few months going where he just showed pure quality, and Porto won the league as well, and he was one of the main players as well there. So I think you can expect very good stuff. He, of course, he's still young and he needs to adapt to the league. I have no doubt about this, but I'm sure he will bring us a lot of quality. He's a strong character with strong personality, great left foot. So I'm sure he will bring us quality in the game as well.
Great. And we saw on social media that Zinchenko had to sing a song as his kind of initiation. What did all the others do? Did they all have to sing a song, or how did it work?
Yeah, all need to sing a song, to be fair. Everyone sang, and a few were amazing, a few were a disaster. But this is a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
So and the group is fantastic. Then we end up, especially in the preseason, there is more room for this into entertainment, and it was nice.
Yeah. And do you remember what you sung when you joined? Did you have to sing a song?
I had to, yeah. I sang. What did I sing? You know, Nossa.
Okay. Yeah.
Sim,
Okay.
você me mata. Yeah,
I'm not
sing
going to
in
ask you to sing it
Brazilian.
now.
It's Brazilian song. I tried to find a song where was still my language, even if it's Portuguese from Brazil, they're a bit different, but still my language, and that everyone knows was my goal.
Yeah.
So everyone can help a bit or clap or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to sing it. Don't worry. That's next time.
I'm not a good singer. I have to say.
No, same here. Don't worry. The only song I can sing is Arsenal songs when I'm in the stand, so that's okay.
That's great. That's what you need, no?
The best way, yeah. That's the only thing we need. Yeah, absolutely. We've obviously seen some of our experienced players move on over the last kind of 6 months, year. You know, Aubameyang, Lacazette. Obviously, Bert Leno has gone this week as well. Do you kind of have you in the last kind of with this pre-season, have you seen other players start to step up? Obviously, you're an experienced player, so you bring leadership to the group. But have you started to see some of the younger players step up, and you think, oh wow, he's developing as a good leader?
We have obviously our group, our leadership group, that is a bit of both, where you have experienced players and also who has a bit more tendency to be leader. It's obvious we know the group for a long time. We are there also for a while. Me, Granit, Rob, Marty. Now with the new signings as well, Jesus is bringing this experience, and a few others. Even on the pitch, you see most of the players need to have a bit of this leadership, and I'm sure a few they will keep stepping up during the season. In tough moments and stuff like this, it's when you appear a bit more naturally, and this will be crucial.
And just thinking about kind of fans and atmosphere and the stadium and stuff, did you notice a little bit of a change last season? Because a lot of fans have said that the atmosphere last year at the Emirates was one of the best in many, many years. As a player, did you notice that? And how important is atmosphere for you to help you perform at your best?
To be fair, it's important when we play home and we enjoy to play home. It's not all the teams in the world they can have this feeling, you know. Sometimes some teams they have not so good results at home, and you think why, you know, and these sometimes can be one of the reasons, you know. And last year we connected with the fans in a strong way. I think the fans also saw another side of the players. The players also started to understand better the fans and to be more connected. And in the end, the result was very positive. During the season, you could see the help that the supporters were giving to our team in some moments, and that the team was much more comfortable to play that in Emirates. And this is great to see.
It's interesting that you say players felt more comfortable to play at the Emirates, but I think that's important. You have to be comfortable in your home ground. You want to make your home ground for opposition teams as hard as possible, you know, to come to. Just out of interest, when you go to away games, what's the feeling like then? Because obviously you know you have Arsenal fans in the corner, and actually Arsenal fans are normally quite loud even in away games. But generally, dealing with that atmosphere must be difficult. And maybe at Newcastle, Spurs, we kind of found that maybe a little bit difficult, because even as fans, we found it difficult to really influence the game. We couldn't quite sing as loud and, you know, stuff like
that. It's important, even if you are not so many, that you make yourself aware. And I think that we feel that you are there. And I think this happened every time. So this is something very important for the team. But in the other hand, we also need, as a players, to be prepared to go away, play, of course. And this is our job also, and our job of the leaders to motivate the players inside, to prepare them mentally. The coach also helped a lot in this, to prepare the team to go to difficult atmosphere, because in the end, if you don't like pressure, you can't play football. I'm sorry, simple as that. And pressure is part of this job. So I like it sometimes to go there and be able to play our game and to show them our quality. And if you are concerned and if you are only thinking about the team itself, this is the most important, you know, because I know when we are all together and with the same energy and with no afraid or lack of confidence or whatever, I'm 100% sure we go to any ground and we will fight easily for the win of this game. The problem is not everyone sometimes is in the same page, and this is where comes in the leadership, comes in feeling the moments during the week, what you need, the word, this, that, you know. In the end, we are all here fighting for the same thing. But it's good that we like to play at Emirates, but we need to be prepared as well to play away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, last season, last couple of minutes now, Cedric, but obviously last season we just fell short of that fourth place in Champions League football, and we were very, very close. Mm-hmm. I mean, how disappointing was that? But then, have you as players talked about it and thought this season we're going to make sure that doesn't happen?
Of course, we had a few conversations during the last month, let's say, the last games. We knew this game in Tottenham was very important as well. Obviously, there was a lot of emotion in these games and a lot of things going on besides the game, and was in the end was not the result we wanted, and we were very disappointed. And then we had a tough game and a tough day in Newcastle, where things didn't work out overall. There is nobody to blame. It's just overall the team didn't really perform in that day. But I think we got maybe very excited to be where we were, and in this moment we maybe we're not strong enough to keep us there, you know, mentally. What was also important in the Premier League, because it felt horrendous to lose this spot, because we wanted it very much and we fought a lot for it. And believe me, we were very disappointed as well not to get where I think we deserved as a team. But to be fair, nobody expected us maybe to be there fighting for that spot in the last weeks, let's say. So I think a club as Arsenal has to have this goal, and we want to not just achieve fourth place. We want more. We want to be fighting for trophies. Don't misunderstand me. But the project was very new last year. This year, the players are more experienced as well. They already know better the Premier League, and I'm sure we will have a great year.
Absolutely. It's definitely, hopefully this is going to be a good season for us. Now, Cedric, final question. If you have a message for Arsenal fans, you know, going on Friday to the game and going on Saturday next week to the home game against Leicester, and people who come all season, or people anywhere around the world, in Arsenal have a global fan base and we have members across the world, what would you say to them? Final word for you, with you.
First of all, thank them for the support they have been giving us during the last season as well, doing all the time I have spent in Arsenal. First of all, that. Second of all, I want also to be close to them. Personal, I like to feel their energy and feel their support as well, and to be as open as much with them. So this is something I think is important. And after, I think the third thing I want to say is the team will definitely fight for every point, and I will also pass this message to the team to fight for every duel, and we can't control everything, but what we can control, we will be on top of it, because we want to win for them as well. So we are counting, of course, on their support, but we want to fight and to win things for them as well.
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but it does feel that at the moment there's a lot of positivity with Arsenal fans. Arsenal fans are very excited for the season to start. Pre-season has been good. Arsenal fans, I think, believe that this can be a good season. They definitely believe that we've got a good squad now. So hopefully, yeah, we're ready to take that next step, Cedric. We're ready.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Cedric, again for giving up your time. I mean, I realise this is we're 2 days away from the start of the Premier League season. I know you've got children as well, because we heard your daughter looking for you. So no, I really appreciate you taking time out, your family time as well, and obviously best of luck for the season. Let's hope it's a good one.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.